Right. Hello there. This is Edamam Api, and today we are going to be talking about one of my projects that I did earlier in December 23 to January 24 this year. So the project that we are going to be discussing on about is the USB sharing web application. And before we dive into the project, let's take a minute to describe my skills. Right, so I am a full stack web developer and I am very proficient in your front end development, that is your basic languages, that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And in the back end part, I'm very proficient in Node.js framework. There is Express framework on top of Node.js. Database that I like to use is MongoDB along with Monngoose for easiness, obviously. All right, so moving on to the web application, I hope you can see my screen. So this is the recipe web sharing application. So basically, any user or anyone who wants to just show their recipe to the people on the internet, or to just show them globally, or basically I want to tell my recipe is the best, I can just post it here. For example, I like to make biryani, and I think my recipe is the best. Post it out there. Let's see what the people have to say. So this is the main web interface that you see when you come on to this website. There's nothing crazy going on here, but there's a login and a sign up page. For example, login if you have a new, if you're an old user, sign up for a new user page. Alright, this is the authentication part. Once you log into it, for example, let me just show you mine and log in. There's a reset password and new password setting as well that I added in over here using your Gmail that we'll come back to. Alright, so once you're logged into your account, you'll see an options for you. Come back to the same page, but there are more crazy options. You have your public recipes, search recipes, my recipes, favorites. For example, if I go to my recipe, and I have some recipes already over here. For example, if I go to biryani, which is public, you can see all of the ingredients, or you can see the ingredients required. You can see the recipe, the entire recipe. This is my recipe, right? And these are my recipes that I added here. For example, if I want them to be public, I can keep them public. If I want to edit them, I can edit them as well. Keep them private if wanted. I don't want to do that right now. You can add another recipe. For example, you come up to this page. I don't want to do that right now. You can do that. And basically, you can perform main CRUD operations on your recipes. Moving on to public recipes, this is completely an entire different section under which the global recipes. For example, this and where's my biryani? Right there. And I guess the mango milkshake belongs to my recipes. Other than that, these four are someone else's recipes. All right. You can see their author name. You can favorite them as well. For example, this one and these are something that I really like. For example, from the global recipes, I can keep them as favorites. When they come over here, you can view them later on as well. So the public recipe is basically a place where you can view your recipes. Your recipes, for example, or I click on this recipe, you can also do a particular rating. For example, I like this recipe from someone from I guess Mohammed or some Aman Hadri, I guess that's me. Anyway, so you can see the rating was given was 3 and the number of people who read that was 1. You can also edit your rating. For example, if you're a new user, you can give your new rating as well. I'll show you the code in a minute. And this is the main, not the main part, but also another cool feature. For example, this is a global recipe search where I included an API, Edamam Api, to be specific, where if you type anything, for example, in my public recipes, there are not many users, but later on there will come more users. For example, there's some recipe that I just want from entire internet, right? So basically, this API gives you all the recipes that they are present on the internet. Majority of the good ones. To be precise, for example, if I click this one, you'll be moved on to another place. You can see the steps or the ingredients or the steps to require to make that recipe, and so on and so forth for any other thing. For example, let's say pizza or any other thing or any other food item, you will get your recipes from the internet over here using Edamam API. So let's go back into the main coding part. So how did I make this? As I said, I used EJS templates. I used Node.js on top of Express framework. I used MongoDB as my database, and this is the main code. Right. So here are some integrations. And the main thing that Node.js is basically split up into, you can say, world divided into MVC. It uses MVCs, the models, the controllers, and your views. Views is where you have all your templates, or basically front end part. So in my views, I have authentication folders, your login, new password reset, and sign up pages. I have a general include part where I have boilerplate, footer, and navbar that is general to all the pages here, and recipe stuff where I have 404 error page and so on other pages inside my views. Alright, root, we'll come back to roots later. Authentication protection is just a middleware to basically authentication was included as a special feature or validation purposes. I added this for security reasons. So basically, if I'm trying to access the website without logging in, it will directly move me on to the login page. For example, let me show you. This is when I'm logged in, right? For example, if I take this link and log out, and if a person who is trying to access my website special features without logging in, for example, this site, which we just saw, it will give me a page 404 error that is not found, or it will redirect me back to the login page. That is what the authentication part does. Let's see models. Models, I have two things over here. That is the public. Now, this is basically the public global recipe page that we just saw earlier. Let me just go back. So basically, this holds all the public recipes. As I said, this is completely different domain, so I needed to use a different schema altogether to make this. And users, right? So users, or basically, yeah, as me as a user, you using the website after login as a user, we're storing that in another Mongoose schema. We're storing the ID, name, and email. This is what they provide us with. These three things. We're giving a particular ID to them. Then we are storing their recipes, their favorites, and these two things are what is needed to create a session. For any session to be valid, for example, I don't want the user to be logged in and just stationary for a particular amount of time. For example, if you go to Twitter online on your website, on your PC, that is, after a particular time, that session is basically you are logged out of that page. For example, I did not use the website. It's on my PC, but I did not use it for about 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It will automatically log me out of that, right? So that is what we are doing using these two. After the session expires, or for example, 30 minutes of time, we want the of inactivity, that is, after 30 minutes of inactivity on my website, basically I'm making him log out. That is what we use these two for. Alright, that is my models. Moving on to the main cool part, that is logic of your controls. Error is basically the 404 status error that if page is not found or any different login was used, for example, page that was not there was used. Alright, so moving on to authentication part, this is where you have all of your login, sign up, your password, new recent password logic. I also use SendGrid transport to basically use email verification and authentication validation purposes. Moving on, I also use crypto and bicrypt in order to encrypt your passwords, creating more security. So this is the sign up part, post sign up, where we are hashing, encrypting your password, and also giving you an email telling you have signed in successfully. This is the login part. This is your post login, in which we are basically comparing whatever password you said or you wrote down there in order to compare that with the one that is saved inside my MongoDB. Alright, moving on further ahead, we have logouts, we have reset password page, and the reset post reset password page, where we are basically giving, this is the main part where I needed the email verification. If you're some user and you want to reset the password, you can only do that with respect to your email, right? So that is a great validation technique, you can say. Moving on to recipe.js, you have all of the CRUD operations of recipes and anything going on over this part. All these functions which get you to your pages, render your views. There's a post add recipe which takes this object, which you can see over here. This uses, right. So this is this guy's recipes. All of them stored inside objects. For example, this one is chicken nuggets, and you have all of their information in here. They're all stored as objects, basically. All right. So moving on, we're saving them inside your public or your private as the user selects that. All right, we're doing that. There's a delete option, delete function over here. There's an edit your recipe function. There's a post edit. What else do you have? Yeah, this is if it's from public. This is if it's from private. Yeah, get details of a recipe. For example, if I want to see the recipe of beef sandwiches, you can go inside. Now, this page is the details of the recipe where I can see the ingredients as well as the recipe. So this is if it's from public, if it's from private. Get recipe, public recipes, favorite recipes, post, add to favorites if I'm adding them to favorites, or if I want to remove them from favorites, all of that logic. There's a rating. For example, this part was a bit, how should I say, something that annoyed me a bit. It took me 2 days to understand the rating or functionality, but I got through that. All right, so that is it. That is my web application to you in, I believe, 10 minutes. I'm sorry if I took long. Yeah, so I use Monngoose to connect over here. This is the Edamam Search API that I was talking to you about. This is that. This is my. Um, so this is where I'm basically getting the entire object and using hits. This is my API keys and ID. Alright, so yeah, this is some more logic. This is the CSRF token that provides security. And yeah, this is my entire project to you. Be sure to actually check out the website, and if you're visiting the website, and basically it's deployed on render.com, so it might take 20 to 30 seconds on the first load, in the initial load that is there. So yeah, be sure to check out my website, add your own recipes, check out other recipes and so on. And yeah, that's me. Peace out.